This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
(8:45). This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here is the news edited by Lakshman Fonseca and read by J. Yogaraj. First, the headlines. The President scheduled to leave for Singapore on a 2-day official visit tomorrow. Minister Harin Fernando says more tourists from India are now arriving as a result of President's visit to India. The Agriculture Insurance Board says over 46,000 acres of crops had already been damaged. State Minister of Finance says the import restrictions will be lifted only after strict supervision. The expansion of central bank's monetary base or money printing drastically reduced. Russia's Luna 25 spacecraft crashes into moon. And those are the headlines. President Ranil Wickremesinghe is scheduled to leave for Singapore on a 2-day official visit tomorrow. President's media division said President Wickremesinghe has a series of significant meetings planned, including discussions with Singapore's President Halimah Yacob and talks with Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, Defence Minister Eng Chen Hien, and Sustainability and Environmental Minister Grace Fu Hai during his visit. PMD said under the provisions of Article number 6 of the Paris Agreement, countries have the opportunity to collaborate effectively with the objective of reducing global greenhouse gas emissions through international carbon trading. Accordingly, a cooperative understanding concerning carbon neutrality within the framework of Paris Agreement will be established between the governments of Sri Lanka and Singapore. The signing of this agreement is anticipated after deliberations between President Ranil Wickremesinghe and Prime Minister of Singapore. Joining the President on this visit will be Sagala Ratnayake, Chief of Presidential Staff and Senior Advisor on National Security, Ruwan Wijewardene, Senior Advisor on Climate Change and Senior Advisor on Economic Affairs, and Dr. R.H.S. Samarthunga. During President Wickremesinghe's absence from the country, 4 acting ministers have been designated to oversee the ministries under his purview. The appointments include a Minister of State for Defence, Pramita Bandara Tennakoon, as the acting Minister of Defence, Minister of State for Finance Shahan Semasinghe as Acting Minister of Finance, Economic Stabilization and National Policy. Minister of State for Technology Kanaka Herath has been appointed as the Acting Minister of Technology, and Minister of State for Social Empowerment Anupa Paskol has been appointed as the Acting Minister of Women, Child Affairs and Social Empowerment. Minister Harin Fernando says more tourists from India are now arriving to the island today. He said it was a result of President's visit to India recently. He said many constructive programs are now being launched to promote tourism industry in Sri Lanka under the guidance of the President. Addressing at the inauguration or the inaugural ceremony of Hilton Yala Resort yesterday, Minister said many airlines are now operating to the island today. He said Israeli airline Arkia is to launch the first scheduled non-stop service between Tel Aviv and Sri Lanka during the fourth quarter of the year. Flights connecting Tel Aviv Ben Gurion International Airport and Colombo's Bandar Naik International Airport will operate twice a week using Airbus A321 aircraft from October 31st, he added. This news comes to you from Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Sri Lanka Insurance, like a father, like a mother.
The Agriculture Insurance Board says over 46,000 acres of crops had already been damaged at the 2023 Yala season. The chairman of the Agriculture and Agrarian Insurance Board, Madhuma Bandar Veerasekara, said apart from paddy cultivations, the farmlands of potato, bee onions, maize and chili had also been damaged due to the prevailing drought conditions. He said 41,046 farmers had been faced or are facing this issue, and they are calculating crop damages, and they work with the Ministry of Agriculture and the Department of Agrarian Services. He said the board pay 40,000 rupees per acre, but admitted the fact prices of inputs have increased recently, and they have calculated that about 100,000 rupees is needed for an acre. State Minister of Finance Ranjit Singh Balapitia says that the import restrictions will be lifted only after strict supervision. He said it is necessary to prevent the emergence of another economic crisis. The State Minister emphasized that a country cannot ban imports in the long run. Speaking to the media today, State Minister said the government had to take decision earlier due to the crisis, but the country should gradually be opened. State Minister also stated that in order to achieve positive economy and expand the country's economy, the most important thing is to provide the necessary facilities for international trade. The expansion of central bank's monetary base or money printing drastically reduced. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunwardhan says in comparison to the entirety of 2018, it was at 50% rate. He said the central bank has printed money to the tune of 341 billion rupees in 2021. However, from January to October last year, the figure dropped to 47 billion. In 2020, the monetary base explained 31.6 billion rupees the central bank added. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunwardhan says the expansion of the monetary base has been accelerating due to the tightened monetary policy. Sri Lanka is now in a much more stable situation in terms of monetary base expansion. And that's local news.
Listen, no fake news, false flags, it is the real thing. Breaking records, making history, you know we got the big bling. 10 billion bonus all across the island. Ka-ching! Not millions, talking billions, yeah, it is the big win.
History's highest ever short bonus declaration for SLIC life policyholders in 2022 exceeds 10 billion rupees.
10 billion bonus gonna make your dreams come true. 10 billion bonus for you.
Sri Lanka Insurance, like a father, like a mother.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe is scheduled to leave for Singapore on a 2-day official visit tomorrow. President's media division said President Wickremesinghe has a series of significant meetings planned, including discussions with Singapore's President Halimah Yacob and talks with Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong and Defence Minister Eng and Sustainability and Environmental Minister Grace Fu Hai during his visit. And that came to you in Top News.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
What's Life is brought to you by
CIB Janajaya Vasana. Unbelievable discounts and offers throughout August from CIB Janajaya Vasana. Come today itself.
Sri Lanka Customs says that a significant increase in financial frauds that have been carried out to deceive the people has been found. The Additional Director General of Sri Lanka Customs, Sudhanta Silva, says that fraudsters are using not only the customs letterheads and telephone numbers, but also the names of the custom officials. Sri Lanka Customs asserted that it will never demand to deposit money into the accounts of unknown individuals. Moreover, Mrs. Silva urged the general public to inform Sri Lanka Customs regarding such fraudulent activities and the individuals who are involved. And that was Watchlight.
CIB Janajaya Vasana. Unbelievable discounts and offers throughout August from CIB Janajaya Vasana. Come today itself.
In world news headlines, Russia's Luna 25 spacecraft crashes into moon. U.S. meteorologists warn Hurricane Hillary has weakened but could still life-threatening. Syria doubles public sector pay and cuts subsidies as economy sinks. And those are the headlines of the world news. Russia's unmanned Luna 25 spacecraft has crashed into moon after spinning out of control, officials say. It was Russia's first moon mission in almost 50 years. The craft was due to be the first ever to land on the moon's south pole, but failed after encountering problems as it moved into its pre-landing orbit. It was set to explore a part of a moon which scientists think could hold frozen water and precious elements. Hurricane Hillary has weakened as it heads towards Mexico's Pacific coast and California, but could still cause life-threatening flooding. U.S. meteorologists warn. With winds of 85 miles per hour, it has been downgraded to a Category 1 storm. Heavy rain lashed parts of Mexico's California peninsula and southern western U.S. overnight. One man died after being swept away while crossing a stream in Baja California, an official said. Syria's government has doubled public sector pay while at the same time cut fuel subsidies as it tries to boost the war-torn country's economy. The announcements were made overnight after the value of the Syrian pound fell to a new low against the US dollar on the barrel or a black market. The country's collapse has helped fuel hyperinflation and pushed 90% of the population below the poverty line. And that's world news.
Development News is brought to you by
Job opportunities from Deshakti Lanka in Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Oman, including company housemaid, salary 156,000 rupees, 23 to 57 years. Contact 037 7500 500.
Sri Lanka Ports Authority, with technical and financial assistance from ADB, is working towards the implementation of the port community system for Sri Lanka to facilitate trade across and through its ports. It aims to become the most efficient and reliable port in the Southeast Asian region. A port community system is an electronic platform that connects the multiple systems operated by various organizations that operate in a port community, and it will optimize, automate, and manage the port. And that's development news.
Job opportunities for women from Deshakti Lanka in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and Oman. Company housemaids, caretakers and home cooks in Saudi Arabia for ages 23 to 57 years. Salary starting from 156,000 rupees. Interviews are now on with foreign agents. You can now travel overseas free of charge. Branches: Colombo, Kurunegala, Anuradhapura and Matara. Contact number 037 7500 500. Deshakti Lanka Foreign Development Agency.
In sports, soccer, Women's World Cup. England's way to win the first Women's World Cup title goes on after Spain deservedly triumphed in the final in Sydney today. The UK looking to become the first England senior side since the men's team in 1966 win the World Cup suffered hard break after being outplayed by a Spanish side full of flair and creativity. England manager Serena Wigman, who has now lost 2 successive World Cup finals, introduced Lauren James and Chloe Kelly at half-time, but Spain maintained control despite the England's best efforts. And that's sports news.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැයි කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA, has partnered with Sri Lanka's largest leading private sector commercial bank, HNB plc. Through the partnership, JICA will leverage its experience as a long-standing development partner to the island nation and HNB's broad expertise and island-wide branch and customer network. HNB plc said the partnership will help focus resources into agriculture, dairy production, value chain financing and women's entrepreneurship development.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැයි කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
In economic news, Sri Lanka and Iran have set the T for oil transaction. Sri Lanka and Iran have been in talks to engage in a T for oil deal whereby Sri Lankan tea exporters will sell their teas to Iran and a payment of which will be made by the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation as it debts to Iran for oil purchases are deducted accordingly. He noted that of the 80 exporters on the list of exporters to Iran, about 6 of them will be exporting the first consignment of teas under this agreement by early September.
Weather report.
The Met Department says except for a few showers in western and sub-Brahma provinces and in Galle and Mathura districts, mainly fair weather will prevail over most parts of the island. Fairly strong winds, about 40 to 45 kilometers per hour, can be expected at times in western slopes of the... And that's weather report. And to wind up this news podcast, let's look at the main points once again. The President scheduled to leave for Singapore on a 2-day official visit tomorrow. Minister Harin Fernando says more tourists from India are now arriving at the President's visit to India. The Agriculture Insurance Board says that over 46,000 acres of crops have been damaged. State Minister of Finance says that the import restrictions will be lifted only after strict supervision. The expansion of central bank's monetary base or money printing drastically reduced. News overseas: Russia's Luna 25 spacecraft crashes into moon. And with that, we conclude this evening news podcast of Sri Lankan Broadcasting Corporation.